Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, an HOA fined me $10,000 because I painted my door the wrong color. They ended up suing me, so I had to teach this entitled homeowner association a lesson. Here is what happened, let's dive right into the video. So I have a crazy story regarding my HOA, but before I get into that, I want to talk about them first because they are something else. So when I was looking for a place to live, I did not have a ton of time to really search around. That led me into getting the first place I could afford that looked good, which just happened to be within this HOA. I never got a good welcome from them, and I think they wanted the people moving into the area to be what I call a picture frame family. So basically a married couple with kids and maybe a dog or something, not a single guy who works on a computer all day and has a little bit of an eccentric personality. For me, I have no idea if it's just the way I am or if it is my ADHD, but I kind of march to the beat of my own drum. Luckily, that drum is pretty quiet, and since I don't really have any creativity with work, I tend to do it with my spare time. My house is just filled with anything I find cool looking, which creates a room that probably clashes. Since it was mostly indoors, the HOA did not really know much about that side of me, but they got a pretty good read on my personality. One day I was coming into the house after I was at a flea market and I got a bunch of stuff. An HOA person wanted to have a conversation with me, and at first I assumed that they were annoyed about something minor. HOA person: do you have a minute to chat? Me: yeah, sure, is there a problem? HOA guy: we were just discussing if this was the right place for you. That you might be better off in an apartment or someplace that makes more sense for a single person. Me: no, I'm fine with the house. It's not like a huge mansion or anything, plus I like having the space and privacy. Is there a rule that single people cannot buy a home? HOA: no, we just hoped that you would see eye to eye on this matter. Me: well, I'm sorry, but I don't. This box is a little heavy, so I'm gonna go inside now, if that's all. I knew that it was a little cocky to bring attention to the box in my hands because it was open and she could see inside of it. It was a bunch of wood-carved odd art pieces that somebody like her I knew just would not like. She seems more of an old-school type person. Still, I didn't care because it was my house and I was gonna do what I wanted. The HOA did not scare or intimidate me at all. Things continued like that for about 8 months, with them hinting wanting me to leave but having no ability to do anything about it. They could not call the police on me for noise complaints or anything, since I was quiet and didn't have company coming over that often. My idea of a raging party is having some friends over to play board games. Eccentric and boring might be the two best words for something to describe me. The house I got was in pretty good shape, but some work really needed to be done on it. The roof needed some work and the paint job was really starting to peel on the outside of the house. This just meant that I was able to get it a little cheaper and fix things up afterwards. Now, the house and roof did not cause any kind of issues. The front door, on the other hand, caused a huge fight after I got it painted. Instead of sticking with the boring white it was before, I decided to go for a nice vibrant red. It would even match the color of my car, which to me seemed cool. After I got the work done, I started getting letters in the mail from the HOA with fines attached to them, claiming that I went against the HOA bylaws when it came to painting my door red. That rule just seemed weird to me and like something was off about it. I went and looked up the rules for myself and saw that what they had was very vague. It stated that front doors needed to be a natural color, and that was it. Well, what the heck did that mean? Nothing else mentioned it, but I didn't think my door was an issue and sent them a letter back stating a definition of natural color. I also did not pay the fines because I truly believed that what I did was not against the HOA rules and they wanted to just make things up to try and get me to leave. I never got a response about my question, but after a while of not paying them, I got notice that I was being taken to court and sued for the money owed. Fine by me actually. If I knew one thing about lawyers, they were fantastic when it came to vague things. He agreed that the wording was poor and they were clearly grasping at straws because they did not want me living in a mostly family area. We did not get to go to court exactly, but instead met at an arbitration to sit down and try to find a solution that does not involve wasting a judge's time. The fines had added up to that point to $10,000 and they wanted me to pay them the money and change my door. Otherwise sell the house and move out of the neighborhood. I also had a counter lawsuit going on claiming that I was being harassed by the HOA and targeted because I did not fit into the demographic. The one they actually wanted living in the neighborhood instead of me. First of all, when it came to the door, they were claiming a natural color meant a normal color. When pressed what that meant, they said it had to either be black or white. My lawyer jumped on the fact it just says natural color, and if you define that, it means color found in nature. Hell, red is even a primary color, so one could argue it's more natural than a black or white door. They agreed to drop the fine if I just changed the door, but I was not gonna budge. They knew I had the advantage and was not gonna walk away with anything less than a win. I ended up getting all of the fines taken away and got to keep my door the same color. As for the harassment, we came to another agreement where I once again think came out as a winner. The HOA was mandatory for new people coming into the neighborhood. I would agree not to pursue the harassment further if my contract with the HOA was voided. Meaning I would not be part of the HOA anymore and they could not send me fines for anything. I was more than happy with this arrangement because it meant I had total freedom. You can be sure I used that freedom to my full advantage when decorating the inside and outside of my home the way I wanted. With the HOA not being able to do a damn thing about it. Despite how annoying they were, I plan to stay here for a good long time. And here, ripe stars, I guess OP gets some of the benefits, if any, of living in an HOA neighborhood while not being bound by their rules. Props to OP for this. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video so far, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even leave a comment because that would help me tremendously. Either way, the next one is titled "Racist Karen Kicks Me Out of Restaurant and Slaps Me for Being Black." I love how these kinds of stories had gained some popularity. I feel it really brings to light the kind of terrible behavior people think they can get away with exhibiting, and that no matter how close and cuddly media outlets like to make the world seem, the truth is a far shout from the far reality we see on these make-believe shows. So I got a front row seat to it all being black, and although things are not as bad as they were growing up in the 80s, they are still a long way off from being genuinely equal. I honestly don't think things will ever be equal, as there are some people out there that like to put down others just for being different, and I don't think that will ever change. I was a prime example of this when I was at school. The science teacher was a massive racist, and he was not silent about it either. Sure, he did not jump and shout that he hated black people, but he was very discriminatory in his behavior and took every opportunity to put me down. So much so, I almost quit out of school and abandoned my education because of him. Luckily, I didn't, and I followed my dream of opening a top quality restaurant. Well, quality is subjective depending on who you talk to. The Duke and Duchess Kent would probably never grace my doors, but some drunk guy called Duke and all his mates coming out of the club late in the night would, and they would most likely say that my string of late night restaurants were a godsend. So anyway, I saw a corner of the market that had only been tapped by Turkish takeaways and cheap burger bars. So I decided to take that desire for questionably cooked meats at the end of a night out and establish a decent place these people would relax, eat, and carry on drinking. Think of it like Wetherspoons or Yates, but with focus on food instead of drink. It grew quite popular in the Midlands of England, so much so that I opened a chain of them all around the south of England and grew pretty damn wealthy because of it. What I loved doing the most was touring across the country and checking in on these places from time to time, making sure the standards I had set in my business plan were being followed and the like. I also loved just hanging around these places and getting into some very heated drunken discussions with the regulars to these places. It was like I was living one long party. That was until I ran into Karen. I had just opened up a restaurant in the shining jewel of the south coast along what is known as the Riviera of England, or the Jurassic Coast to most people, the one place so chock full of college students that pretty much every night was party night, and I knew my restaurant would boom every year. The wonderful coastal monstrosity that is Bournemouth. Or Bournemouth, I'm not sure. The only time I got to see it before was when I was picking a premises which used to be a bank, and then a few times during renovations and conversion into a restaurant. I sadly missed the grand opening, but I was able to free up some time so that I could get down and inspect the restaurant a couple months after it opened. Because of my absence, I left most of the work to one of my partners who had done a bang-up job of getting everything organized and ready. With one exception, and this is probably my partner's biggest oversight. He hired a Karen, and not just any Karen, but a racist Karen. Obviously, you can never tell if someone is a racist until they are given the opportunity to be so, and during job interviews, people are rarely ever honest about who they really are and what they are really like. So far as I knew, Karen was an okay person. The only thing I knew about Karen was that she was pretty good at managing my new restaurant. The numbers looked good, customer feedback was, well, as good and reliable as any drunken rambling, but the numbers and charts did not lie. I was looking forward to heading down to Bournemouth to meet Karen and the rest of the team at the new restaurant. I thought I would be all sneaky about it, which was probably my first mistake. I thought I could go all undercover boss and get a look at the place without people rolling out the red carpet after having the time to prepare for my visit. I have found that you cannot get a true feel of the place when people are aware that you are the owner and to expect your arrival. The staff have the habit of behaving a little more professional than they normally would, and things would be handled with a lot more care. So, undercover boss mode engaged, I headed down south for Bournemouth to what I hope would be a great couple days getting to know new people. Obviously, that did not happen, else I would not be on here sharing my racist Karen story. The evening started off okay. When you run a late-night refuge for the hungry drunkards, you have to expect some trouble to arise on occasions. Alcohol has this nasty habit of bringing out the worst in some people, but for the most part the doormen we hire are professional security guards. I met with the two that were on that night, I spoke to them for a little while, got to know a little about them and their job, everything's going great, that is until I enter the restaurant and I'm left standing around for quite some time. I've always made sure that the staff training includes aspects on how to spot a troublemaker and how to deal with them, which is mostly call the security and have the troublemaker expunged, and there are certain procedures you follow to avoid aggravating the suspected troublemaker. All are welcome in my restaurant, so as long as you behave, knowing how to handle people is one of the musts for working here. Needless to say, Karen clocked me and proceeded to behave in a very unprofessional and not at all like what I saw laid out in the training regime I had put together by professionals. From the moment she saw me, I knew she had a problem and left me standing at the greeter's podium for over 20 minutes. She even went so far as to usher in a group of people that came after me to a table. I asked her why she was ignoring me and why the other group was tabled first, and she said, "You're one person, they were 5. We don't currently have a table for one person." There was no sir, no please, no thank you, no politeness at all that I would expect from one of my hosts. I was a little miffed, but I did not get angry. She might have been genuine in her response and she might have had a busy night. Stress can do strange things to people. So I went up to the bar to get a drink, as all are welcome to do so when they come in. They can wait to be seated or just chill at the bar and be seated later. No sooner did I take a step than Karen burst out of the shadows saying, "Where are you going? You have to wait here to be seated." The aggression in her voice surprised me. I had done and said nothing to offend her. "I'm allowed to go to the bar," I tell her. "No, you're not," she declares. "Get back or I will have you kicked out." "For what?" I asked her, still doing my best to remain calm. She simply just stared at me and says the good old, "We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone, so I suggest you get back and wait to be shown to a table." At this point I had enough. "Look, Mrs. Karen, I'm the owner of this restaurant and you're behaving unprofessionally." Was what I wanted to say, but I never got the chance. She slapped me hard across the face. I can still feel the sting of it now, and shouts for security. "Help! This dark person is attacking me!" she calls out. I was stunned. In all my years of having to face racism, in all its forms, people rarely actually ever called me the N-word. It's not the sort of thing you would normally hear here in England. They had other words they used here. The security comes running and look confused when they see me, and I look at them like, what the hell? Karen is ranting at the security guard, demanding that I be kicked out and that I was a troublemaker. No ma'am, he's the owner," the security tells Karen. "Impossible, he's black." I was saddened by this turn of events, but I was used to it and let it run off like water on a duck's back. I asked the security to escort Karen from my restaurant, which made her anger flare even more, and she is calling me every name under the sun as she is being dragged out. But that's not the end of it. For about an hour she is outside, shouting and ranting, throwing things at my security staff, doing her best to turn away my customers who, being drunk, just laugh at her and continue on in for some food. In the end, I had to call the police, and when they asked me if I wanted to press charges, I was like, F yes, she needs to understand racism should not be tolerated. In the end, she was fined for the damages she caused from throwing a traffic cone at my building and knocking over a post. Seriously, she was fined hundreds for knocking over a post. I don't think the judge liked racists either. She was then sent to jail for 12 months for assaulting me and my security staff, and on top of all of that, she had to attend a sensitivity course for her racism. She's probably still there now, to be honest. The next one is titled, Entitled Mom accuses me of luring her kid to my car and then is upset that I didn't offer him snacks. So it's the first week of school and my nephew Andy and his friend Falcon are attending the same school again. This, however, is a new school, not the last one. Both my sister-in-law and my neighbor Sissy, Falcon's mother, have me on their emergency contact, and given that I have an active role in both the boys' life, I was asked to come in and walk the halls, do the meet and greet and fill out some information. I have been given this little yellow card for when they get off the bus. As Clarissa and Sissy are both at work, the boys and little Beth will be chilling at my house for after school, so I have a card for Beth as well. All things are good and everyone is happy. Later I am waiting at the bus stop in my 2000 Honda Civic, which is immediately a riser. I have a kit on it that kind of makes it look like a skyline. I'm driving it a lot right now because I have agreed to give it up to my niece for her 16th birthday, and I want more time with my first car after putting almost 10 years of work into it. Things start when I hear a lady, we will call her Karen, not because she's a Karen but because I know that is her name, talking crap about my car. She is over there standing outside her Ford Focus looking like the mean woman that she always is. I know Karen well enough. Her son, who I will call Dennis like the menace, was once Falcon's friend and would be at my house with Andy and Falcon and their other friend Puck. Puck is not his name, but I will call him that, and it is a nickname that sticks. He looks like the character from Gargoyles when I was a little boy with long platinum blonde hair and elven features. He likes the nickname, his parents get the joke, but he is a timid, effeminate little boy. So a little backstory on why I am bringing this up. Puck, Dennis, Andy and Falcon were over at my house a lot. Puck would come by all the time to get otter pops or fruit snacks or muffins randomly, even when Andy was not around. He is a good kid, they would play with him all the time. And then one day he stopped coming over when Andy and Falcon were over, but would still stop by randomly. So I had noticed that Dennis being a brat to Puck, and I had a couple of times stopped Andy and Falcon from being mean or saying mean things to the kid. They never mistreated this kid before Dennis started hanging out with them. It turns out Karen, Dennis' mom, is a hardcore Westboro Baptist-style church Christian and thinks little Puck is gay and didn't want Dennis hanging around with him. She even came to my house and talked to me, saying she didn't want Puck there when Dennis was there as well. Which I kindly told her to go Puck herself. You don't dictate what happens in my home. She hit me up with the "you're not even the kid's father" kind of crap. Falcon's dad was still alive at this point, so I asked him to go tell her to go Puck herself. Sissy don't like her no way anyway. Well, I came to find out from Puck's mother that Dennis had told Puck he couldn't play with them at my house anymore, and Dennis had beat up Puck. I went to talk to Dennis about this later when he was at my house, and he said his mom told him it was okay because Dennis was gay and he was going to hell anyway. These kids are not even 11 yet. So I went to talk to crazy Karen, and she was absolutely stupid about this, like terrible, and I ended up saying that Dennis couldn't come back to my house. Also, I talked to Falcon and Andy about what Dennis did, has been saying, and talked to their parents. End result was, neither Clarissa or Sissy wanted their kids to be around Dennis. Sissy didn't like Dennis because of all the trouble he caused in her house, so this was just the final straw. So, fast forward. Karen is giving me the stink eye and I am just ignoring her. The bus comes, Andy and Falcon get off, they come to the car. All the kids are fascinated by my car. And also I hardly let the kids ride it instead of my truck because, well, I worked all summer long back in 2016 to get those fancy seats and stuff. I usually don't even like to have little kids in it, but I am cruising and we gonna go to Rita's today, Italian ice cream. A bunch of the neighborhood kids come up and they are talking and asking about the car. I am letting them see inside, though I am wiping hands and whatever. I got a little thing on the front like Knight Rider. Yes, I'm a nerd, but it's cool. Buses come, we are waiting for Beth's bus, she goes to a different school and eventually Dennis gets off the bus as well. He sees Andy and Falcon, he sees the car, he sees me and he comes over. Now, I can be an a-hole and tell the kid to get lost, but I'm not particularly venomous about the kid. He comes up and his mother comes quickly. He asks me if he can see the car. He has always been into it. I look at Andy and Falcon, who are like, not sure what to do, and I'm like, sure Dennis, take a mask, wipe your hands. I got a box of masks and gloves and hand wipes and stuff. Half of that crap was in the car before the pandemic, but you know, little kids cannot be vaccinated and they got grubby little Cheeto hands. His mom does not like this. I hear her screech. What's going on? What are you telling him? He is actually cool about it. He says, it's okay mom. He just asked me to wipe my hands and wear a mask. He's gonna let me sit in the front. She starts in with the, why does he have to wear a mask? The other kids are not wearing a mask. I tell her the ones who jumped in my car got a mask and had to wipe their hands. She then goes off about the pandemic and blah blah blah, but then takes a turn when she says something in her tirade about me luring kids to me with my car, which I had to stop and stare at her ass. Now Andy, my nephew, he has been in the car many times. He knows that if you lift a thing in the backseat, there is a cooler down there, and so he goes for the snacks. He always does, while this crazy lady is yelling at me. After a moment of craziness and the boys munching on chips, Beth shows up. I'm so happy. I close my doors, lock them, and go get her. I come back, Karen is still at my car waiting to fuss at me, Dennis is waiting to get into the car. I tell him maybe next time, because I just wanna leave. He asks if he can have a snack. I look at his mom and she goes, what, you're not even going to offer him a snack? You gave the other kids snacks. Technically, Andy gave Falcon and the little Asian Indian kid, I don't know his name, snacks from my car. If he didn't give Dennis one, that was intentional. I know Andy and he is a little stinker in the making. But I'm like, sure, fine, what do you want? We got chips and juice and some mini Snickers. All stuff that I cannot eat no more on my diet, but I keep my car and my shelves stocked. Gotta use that Costco card for something. Dennis does not want a snack now, he wants to get in the car. I think he thinks it is either or, like he cannot do both. His mom snarls and tells him to get a snack, and then Beth asks if we are going to Rita's, and I say yeah, we will go to Rita's, and she says she hopes that they have the birthday cake. Dennis goes, oh, birthday cake, can I go? And I don't want to say, hey, you mini hate crime the kid, so Sissy and Clarissa don't want you around their kids, and I don't particularly like you, which would be the truth. Instead, I immediately get slick at the mouth and say, I don't think that's a good idea. Wouldn't want to lure you in with my car and the promise of treats, looking directly at his mom, who then lays into me for not offering to take the kid. Not 5 minutes after she said that crap earlier. She then starts talking loud and getting the other parents there involved. But this is my neighborhood and most of these people know me, Andy and Falcon and Dennis has been a little crap forever and people are tired of Karen, so thankfully the most unlikely person in the world spoke up. The old Asian lady who is so sweet, I didn't think she spoke English or spoke it well, but she told her to shut up and take her badass kid home and I heard that clear enough. Folks were laughing, she scowled at me and I told Dennis he can sit in the front seat before he left if his mom agreed. Of course she didn't, she called me an a-hole and drug her kid off. After that we went to Rita's and all was good, but I heard the kids talking about Dennis's crazy mom the whole time. I tried to stir the conversation away, talking about the first day of school and all that, but nope, they wanted to talk about Dennis and his crazy mom. So yeah, that's my experience with an entitled mom. The problem is this is probably gonna be a thing since we are picking up the kids at around the same time. Though the rest of the week she only glared at me from her punk ass car and Dennis has arrived before Andy and Falcon since, so it's not been a huge deal. But I'm sure that woman is a ticking time bomb. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.